Whether it's being effectively immortal, overwhelming amounts of DPS, or forced crowd control, a lot of games are won and lost off of just 1 to 2 good ults. So let's discuss which ults pair best with each other to maximize their value and give you an edge. We won't be repeating any heroes because some ults will obviously work with more than one, just like how Groot will work with pretty much every DPS. So let us know in the comments if you think there are any better combos, and of course be sure to sub. We might include them in a future video. We'll put little icons in the bottom right hand corner of your screen when there's an obvious one here, being that we're trying to have fun and give everybody a fair shot. A fair warning, some of these ults are obviously not meant to work well with each other and are rather selfish. So with that, we're going to rate each pair of combos on a reward factor from 1 to 10, as like I said, some ults just aren't the greatest overall, so this will be a measure of how much better these are if you can get them to work together. All right, let's start out with Atom and Captain America. Atom's res obviously works well with any support ult or ability to make sure that his team stays alive, but that is extremely expensive. So instead, let your tank pick up some of the slack and have Cap pop his ult to shepherd your team back to the point under the safety of that double overhealth. This gives your supports plenty of time to heal up that missing 70% HP from the Atom's res as well. I'm gonna rate this an 8. It's extremely solid, albeit a little pricey. Next is Angela and Thor. These two are basically designed to work with one another. Angela throws down her spear, holding enemies in place, giving Thor all the time he needs to bring down the hammer and stunning anyone who might survive, such as tanks. Of course, Angela's 4cc can work with any of the DPS-focused ults, but Thor really needs that extra time, and they get a team up just for being together anyways. So honestly, this is a 9. This is a really, really good one and can absolutely be a team wipe, even on some support ults. All right, we talked about some of the not so great ones. Let's talk about Black Panther, who I decided to pair up with Black Widow. This is one of the more challenging ones because BP really just wants to ult in an inconvenient location for the rest of his team. But with Widow having an ult that slows the target, deals a decent amount of damage, and causes vulnerable, if they can get these to work together, the both of them have the best chance to get the highest value possible if they can work together. Otherwise, they're just low value selfish ults, which is fine in of itself too. Next up is Blade and the Thing. Blade really wants a setup ults to function best, so of course Groot or Angela works here perfectly, or Doctor Strange. Those are all obvious choices. The problem with those is that these setup ults can arguably be used much better with some of the other ults. So instead, being that we're only trying to use each hero once, we decided to use the Thing's unique shape of his stun to work with Blade for a pretty much guaranteed kill on most teams. We're gonna give this a 7. All right, this one, man, I really had to try to figure something out for this one. So if you could come up with a better combo for the Hulk, let me know. I decided to run the Hulk with the Winter Soldier, although I'll be honest, this is probably the weakest of the list. Hulk is hard to make work, as just like the Panther and Widow, he often wants to pop his ult purely for his own selfish reasons. But I think this works okay for him. Both Hulk and Bucky are mobile ults, and they last a long while. Bucky's greatest weakness during his ult is his durability, something that the Hulk can cover, and vice versa with the Hulk's relatively low ult damage overall. The two of them together make for a spearhead into the enemy's front line, and Hulk's knockback can open up some opportunities for Bucky that may not have been there because of the enemy's support ult. Again, this really isn't a good one. It's just difficult to make Hulk work with anybody. I recommend running Winter Soldier with another just setup ult, or even Namor works really great here. So I'm gonna give this a 4. This is not a great combo, but again, Hulk's hard to work with. Let me know if you come up with any better ideas. All right, next up, Cloak and Dagger and the Punisher. Punisher epitomizes DPS through his ult, and the enemy knows that, and often they mark him as priority number 1 to eliminate. He receives no damage resist or shields or anything during his ult's duration, something Cloak and Dagger can actually provide. Their unique mobility lets the Punisher's ult and sort of lets out a garden path for him and spreads the two out so that if the enemy team decides to pop down, let's say a Magneto ult or a Maximum Pulse, they're spread out enough that they're really only gonna get one, which is still a decently fair trade, still allowing the Punisher to get his ult off if either of them survive. I'm gonna rate this a 7. This also could work really well with Mantis, as that speed boost does a lot. This is one of my favorites. Daredevil and Emma. I actually made a short about this one here. If you guys don't know, we actually do shorts, and you guys can go subscribe and check out all that other stuff. Daredevil's biggest trouble is his ult lacks damage by itself. Obviously, he can still use his other stuff, but by itself, it's not great. It's 600 damage in 8 seconds, which is actually worse than a lot of heroes' primary fires. Emma solves this problem by forcing enemies to look in the direction of her and presumably the Daredevil behind to capitalize. Daredevil also discourages enemies to camp out Emma's ult because his ult actually pierces through shields so long as the enemy's looking at him. So the enemy's basically caught between, do I look away from the Daredevil and catch Emma's ult in the back, then forcing the stun and the suppression on the ults, or do I keep looking at the Daredevil and slowly take damage over time while he goes crazy with his ability uptime? And this can absolutely guarantee a team wipe. Unless your opponents can turn tail faster than she can get this stun off, or is able to get a support off before the combo begins, then it's practically game over. Because like I said, this combo also suppresses enemy support ults from popping. This is a 10. I love this one. All right, next up, Doctor Strange and Iron Man. This is a true classic, so I'm not going to talk too much about this one. You guys have seen this since season 0. Iron Man's long wind-up time can be solved by Strange completely shutting down all ability usage and movement. Not much survives this combo. Not even a support ult can stand up to Iron Man's 850 burst damage. This is a 10. There's a reason why you still see these heroes so much. Who ended up getting Groot? I decided to give Groot to Moon Knight. Groot ults work great with all DPS ults, but nowhere else does it shine better than with Moon Knight, in my humble opinion. Moon Knight's greatest weakness with his ult is that it lacks mobility and its range is hard set, something that Groot can of course solve with ease. Moon Knight's ult has so much DPS, it's so powerful that it can chew through every DPS ult as well as any support ult, making this possibly a great option for a bait and punish on enemy support ults who pop too early, especially those that don't have the ability to get CC immune. Marking down the halfway point of our list, Hawkeye and Penny. Hawkeye's ult has a very similar strengths and weaknesses to the Punisher's, trading access to his kit for lower damage output. Penny's ult is much like the Hulk's, where she most often just uses it for selfish reasons, so she was rather hard to work with in this combo idea that we're trying to build for each hero only being used once. However, together, they don't work too bad. They can cover each other's weaknesses because Penny's mine's now slow, and they can cover the area that provides the Hawkeye all the time he needs to get his shots off and really lock down a space. These two ults are definitely fine individually, and they don't really combo well with each other. I would actually argue Penny's ult is probably the weakest in the game, so this is the best I could come up with that kind of covers each other. I'm gonna give this a 6. Hela and Mr. Fantastic. Hela's ult requires open skies. It literally won't let you pop it unless you can correctly ascend up into the heavens and rain down death to below. And it generally drives enemies into close spaces. Mr. Fantastic, who's not the greatest hero according to most tier lists, would actually prefer closed spaces rather than the open skies. So the two of them kind of operate like tag team hunters. Hela forces enemies into their burrows, and Mr. Fantastic can flush them out or punish them. I'll give this an 8. This actually isn't too bad. The only problem is that you kind of have to run Mr. Fantastic with this, which most teams will not like you for. Human Torch and Iron Fist. This has the identical logic to the previous setup with a little bit more overall DPS and a little less burst. If Groot, Thing, Angela didn't already have dance partners, they would be here with the Human Torch because they work great, but again, we're trying to use one hero each combo, so these two work all right, and it allows the Iron Fist, being that Human Torch isn't likely to be the one to secure the final hit, to actually be the one that gets that hit and get his bonus health from those kills. Invisible Woman and Scarlet Witch. You probably have seen this one before. Scarlet Witch also works really, really well with Jeff the Landshark. Invisible Woman's ult is strong but stationary, opening it up to counterattacks. I mean, Maximum Pulse and, you know, all the classic counters like Magneto's ult work great against it. However, Scarlet Witch kinda solves this problem because, well, you can't really kill her all that well, and you can't really see her all that well, and she'll be separated out from the rest of the team. Scarlet Witch needs survival and protection, and together, this allows the Invis Woman to place her ult like an attack, because inside of that ult, they are forced into a heavy amount of slow, and of course, the people inside like Scarlet Witch are practically invincible. Scarlet Witch either becomes a checkmate to anyone trapped inside, or guarantees you control of that space, of which the Scarlet Witch's ult is already not the greatest overall, even after the buff. So this is a good way to to make sure that you gain some space and use it very defensively. This one is an obvious one, Jeff and Storm. This one just writes itself. Up until this team up is removed, this is the best combo companion, fully shutting down an entire team if it's placed correctly, and now it's getting the benefit of 100 healing per second in an AoE field from Jeff's latest buffs. When this one is eventually removed, like I mentioned, Jeff and Scarlet Witch work well together. Storm and many of the other roaming supers work decently well too. But for now, this is what we got. Okay, this one is an obvious one, Loki and Luna. What's better than one of the best support ults in the game? Two uses of the best support ults in the game. This one was not very creative, but you know, it is what it is. There's a reason why you see it so much. Magic and Mantis. Magic is very scary right now, but her only glaring weakness in her ult is a lack of actual personal healing, something that Mantis can provide while also granting her speed and damage boosts. This basically is like a lesser version of the Ana Nano Blade combo for Genji back in Overwatch, but it still does suffer from hard shutdown ults. But that speed boost can make it hard to land anyway. This isn't the strongest combo overall, but if you've got a really cracked magic on your team, or you were already planning on popping your Mantis ult anyway, this is pretty good. I'll give it a 7. Magneto and Star-Lord. The very first thing the enemy will do when they hear the Star-Lord scream out his ult is to pop their own and stand smugly on the OBJ, daring him to try to out DPS them. This is something that the Magneto is more than happy to punish, while also inadvertently protecting the Star-Lord with his magnetic invincibility bubble. An 8, Phoenix and Wolverine. These two already have a team up with each other, but when Wolv is able to snag a portion of the team and forcefully CC them into nowhere, Phoenix can sit ready to fire a ballistic missile to punch that extra 200 or so damage and make sure that they meet their maker. The timing is a little bit rough, but if you can land this pretty much will guarantee a kill on anything that is caught in its blast, assuming the support ult isn't already up, because Wolverine will cause a pseudo stun. If you can land this, it's a 10. However, difficulty-wise, I'd say this was probably close to a 6. Psylocke and Spider-Man. These two ults are basically carbon copies of each other with different focuses on the damage, whether it be more spread out like Psylocke's or more focused with a little bit of stun like Spider-Man. But together, if you can get this to land, not even support ults will survive the high amount of damage you're going to be able to punch out. This is a really good way to pull a 180 on some of the support ults out in the game, because I guarantee you when either of these are popped near one of the enemy supports, their first thought is going to be to press the funny ultimate button, and then suddenly all of their team and all of their health will be gone, as these two will absolutely chew through it. Again, these two work totally fine individually, but together, if you can make it work, it can be really good. I'm gonna give this a 9. And rounding off our list today, we have Rocket and Venom. With his recent buff to his damage boost, Rocket allows Venom to one-shot combo potential support ults. This combo happens fast enough that enemies won't likely have the time to destroy the Rocket's amplifier, and if the Venom is skilled, he can even bait out and punish support ults as well, assuming they don't get over health. This is a really good one, although it is really skilled for the Venom's point of view. I'm gonna give this a 10 though. So that leaves a couple without a pair, mostly because we have an odd number here, and these all can decently well slot in for each other. This leaves Namor, Squirrel Girl, and Ultron. Frankly, like I said, these are all sub-ends for already existing CC ults, damage ults, or airborne and healing ults respectively. But these work great as sort of soft versions of everything else. But let me know in the comments which pairings of ults are your favorite. We might include them in a future video. Be sure to subscribe, bless your faces, and deuces.